have the question answering who is not the murder. We asked it who is the murder, and the system derived who is not the murder. And this, okay, this catch should be enough. Then here it says, here it derived if Dom owns some sunglasses, and if somebody owns sunglasses is aggressive, then also it derived that Dom might be aggressive because of this, that he owns sunglasses. And so it's deriving a lot of things based on this, what we entered. And yes, important if we are only interested for the answer, then the best thing is to just set the system to fast mode, and let's see what happens. Here we go. At first it said that dim is, okay, it's probably it's essentially saying it has equally amount of evidence that dim is the murder as it has that dim is not the murder, which is red, because one person claimed that dim is the murder and another person claimed he is not, and it also already found the most confident answer it can receive, can find out in this example, and this is that Dom is the murder. And this is also what it says. And so often what we also see here, because of the assumption of insufficient knowledge and resource, the system can never know when it found a first answer that this answer is the absolute answer, and it does not have to find for another solutions, search for another solutions. The system will probably decrease the priority of this question when it was already satisfied to some degree, but it will still continue to search for better answers. If the current context makes the system, drives the system in doing other things, it will probably forget this question. But if it has nothing different to do, like in our example now, it happened also here now, it searched for the best answer it can get, and this is what happened. It searched for another answer and came up with this other solution of higher confidence. So the system can be used to question?
Yeah, can the system take in new evidence while it is reasoning? So you were doing the steps, so supposing new evidence comes in that would increase the confidence of Tim being the murderer, would it take into consideration and provide an answer?
Mm-hmm.
Or rather change its confidence?
Exactly, this is happening. Let's continue the system. So as you see, it's currently reasoning because it's running, but we are filtering for answers, and while it is running, system click is going, we say no. We say Dom is not the murder. In case that it hasn't forgotten the question, it would have answered, but it looks like it forgot it, so we will just ask it again, who is the murder? And we see that it updated and says, no, Dom is not the murderer. It's not saying that he is not the murderer at all, because it still has the positive evidence it found before. But input usually has a high default confidence, so it tends to say, no, he's not the murderer now. The more evidence it collects, the more stable will this become, and the more difficult it will become to convince the system otherwise.
So do you have a large database, a large knowledge base? How big a knowledge base have you built in this system?
What we see here, and this example was really only this what we entered So this example file. So it started with zero knowledge, and I entered those statements and it derived further knowledge from it.
Right, but at your lab, have you built a significant size, common sense database like the Psych database to work with?
We have tried some small, not in the scale of Psych, but should be here somewhere. We have tried to encode some everyday facts and see whether the system can come up with good conclusions. And the thing is, one interesting part of learning, truth alone is not the entire story. It also has to learn what concepts are important in what context. And this makes it for the system often difficult if you enter a lot of statements to judge in what direction it should think. Well, if a question is entered or a goal is related to it, it's much easier for the system to direct its attention to the right statements. So it's very attention driven. Attention is really the core aspect of the control mechanism behind the system.
One of the large scale ones we've done is WordNet. We've put in the system by applying truth value to WordNet. It's relatively easy to add existing databases. There's a lot of resource on the internet, so we haven't really focused on that because it's not been an issue. But in terms of scalability, we run the system with 3 million concepts, but not necessarily from a large ontology, but just to scale the system to get a feel for what it's capable of. So I don't know if that is getting to the root of the question, but it's certainly scalable, and we have done tests on large data sets like WordNet. But we don't have an existing NAL-based database as such. But as you can see, it's very, very straightforward for the system to generate huge amounts of data from very small input sets. And all of that will be logically sensible information that is perfectly valid data. So that is not an issue for us.
Right. And
So you mentioned earlier that the system's adaptable. When you get new information, is there a mechanism to make previous or later information more important than stuff that happened very far in the past?
this is one thing. There's forgetting applied to tasks in the system, so it will tend to give new items a higher priority. So it often depends on context. It can be that something that also something is important which happened in the past. It depends on different contextual criteria. So sometimes a future task might be important, sometimes a past task, but it tends to, there's a tendency for prioritizing currently happening tasks as higher. This is due to this forgetting mechanism.
I have to interrupt. Can you just show people how to download the code?
Mhm.
Where to download the code?
Oh, yeah. And there was one question, probably you can ask it in parallel, but
So I was going to ask, is there what kind of way would you model like authority into it? So like, if the person inputting the data, whether or not they're reliable, whether or not they're lying to you or something like that. Because I've seen a lot of people use non-axiomatic systems to like, and they would lie to like a game character about rules of the game, and then the game character would go act on it, and then it would discover in the world that it was lied to, and it would react to that, by weighting the person that folded that thing down or something like that.
well, this is a difficult issue. The best thing the system in principle can do is relying on its own experience, and if all this experience is produced by layers, then the system can't do much. When most of its experience comes from independent sources, and there are just some people who give false information, the system will just summarize it, and the other other information will win over the new one which is produced by Laos. So it depends on if the entire experience the system has is wrong in that sense, the system can't know. This is, I mean, it can apply mental operators and try to find criteria when people are trustable and when not, but this is a future story.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the bigger picture of education. So, I mean, if you're being taught absolute rubbish from an early age, then you're just going to grow up knowing absolute rubbish. I mean, there is no solution to that, and you have to be taught sensibly. There can be conflictions in that teaching syllabus, but it generally has to make logical sense, otherwise you're going to grow up with nonsense. It's the same issue.
Yeah, I know there must be many more questions, but we're running out of time. But tomorrow evening, in the demo session, Lars' team is going to participate in the demo session. So we have 2 more hours to actually go through examples step by step. Whoever are interested, you should show up tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. to the demo session. Okay. Also, for the rest of the 3 days, our whole team will be, glad to answer all kinds of questions. Today, we will just have to stop here. We are going to stay a little bit longer, so if anyone cannot wait until tomorrow, you're welcome to ask us. But I'm not going to hold everyone else here. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.